Hey, it's Dave. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to take a look at a Chibson Les Paul Custom. So basically, a friend of mine who is a student of mine bought this guitar. Somebody offered him this guitar and he bought it. I think he paid a couple of $100. I'm not 100% sure, but I know he went and modified and did a bunch of things. He put the pickups in. He put these Seymour Duncans, which I'm not sure which ones they are. And I know he switched the tip there on the pickup selector. The pots are new. They just need to be a little bit adjusted, the proper height set. And then he didn't put the truss rod cover back on because we were still adjusting the neck. But as you can see, it looks pretty good. The paint is, I mean, if you ask my opinion, this is an Epiphone. It probably was built in the Epiphone factory. When he opened it up, I believe it had Epiphone pickups and hardware. The paint reminds me of that pearl white that Epiphone does. The neck joint where the binding comes together looks really good. I mean, it's almost too clean. He took the pick guard off of this. So let's talk about Chibsons. Now, my buddy's not trying to pass this off as the real deal. He bought it full well knowing that this was a Chinese-made instrument. Even though it's stamped on the back, made in USA, that I don't believe is on the back of the USA Customs. This looks like the way they stamp an American Standard. And then, yeah. But anyways, yeah, because I believe this, they have like the custom shop thing on the back. You'll see that this looks more like how, see that? That's basically how you would have the cereals on a USA that was made in the Nashville factory. I believe the customs are made in Memphis. I'm not so sure. Maybe it's just the hollow bodies. I'm not really 100% sure. But I know they have the custom logo back there on the real customs. But anyways, I see a lot of guys on the internet playing these things and doing reviews of these things. And I'm only reviewing this one because my buddy owns it. As far as going out and going on Alibaba or any of these websites to try to find a Gibson Chinese Les Paul, I think it's really silly. If you want a Les Paul, buy a USA Les Paul. If you want to buy an Epiphone, buy an Epiphone. And I've heard the most ridiculous things. People are like, I don't like the Epiphone headstock. I like the Gibson headstock. Well, then buy the Gibson. I find the thing a little... Again, now if somebody were to come up to you and say, hey, listen, I have one of these. I went and hunt one down. I'm looking to sell it. You looked it over. You say, hey, it's a decent guitar for the money. I'll buy it. Okay, I got no problem with that. But I have the problem when people go out and they're trying to buy these and go out and it's like, I'm playing a Gibson Les Paul. Who cares? It's silly. The whole thing is silly. There's a guy, China Guitar Skeptic, and I enjoy his channel, but I just think it's silly. It's like, you're going to keep buying these guitars so you can review them? It's like, come on. No. You're buying because you want to buy them. Oh, you sell them. Yeah, you sell the ones that are junk and the ones you like you're keeping. I get it. It's just, I just find the whole thing. Yeah, guitars can be expensive. If you want a beautiful Gibson guitar, pay the money and buy one. They're really well made. They're nice. I mean, you can buy... I mean, not to say this isn't well made. This is a great guitar for the money. I mean, for a couple of $100 that he paid. It's a little heavy. But for the most part, it's a knockoff. It says Gibson. I mean, it's really a decent job. It's one of the better ones that I've seen. He changed the nut on this. He did a few other things. I know he dressed the frets and filed and leveled them, crowned them. Overall, I mean, my thing is, if you want to buy, there's some great Chinese guitars out there. I think ESP makes a great guitar. There's so many different... I think, like I said, I think Epiphone makes a decent guitar. And if you want to buy like a USA, I think like PRS makes a great guitar. There's so many great guitars out there. I just don't see the reason of buying the knockoff. For me, this would be like if you were to like build a kit car over a Volkswagen. If you remember the old Bradley GTs way back in the day, this would be like instead of it being a Bradley, you're making it like a Ferrari, except you're driving a Volkswagen. And it's like, it's not the real deal. And if you don't own the real deal, don't own the real deal. It's funny because like I made my Strat, that yellow Strat is all made from Warmoth parts. It's made a hell of a lot better than Fender. Fender would be blessed for somebody to pick that up and be like, wow, this is what Fender, I mean, it's a nicer instrument, USA made, and I did it out of more of like a respect for his story. I'm not never going to sell that guitar. I'm not out there trying to fool people. And that's really, I think, what the issue that I have is, it's like, people want to go out and be seen with that Gibson logo on it. And, Gibson's an iconic brand. As much as I don't care for the company, as much as I don't care of the practices of David Berryman and Henry Jeskowitz, and how they've conducted themselves over the past few years, there's no denying that they have an iconic instrument brand and that people want those instruments. We could argue for days whether you think that a brand new, let's say, hummingbird compares with a 1960s hummingbird. You're going to find garbage made back then. You're going to find great ones made. You're going to find garbage today. You're going to find great ones today. When I ran a store, I would pick up one guitar and be like, oh my God, this is terrible. I'd pick up another one and be like, oh my God, how could I not buy this myself? Same instrument, same factory. You just don't know. Some instruments speak to you, some don't. It's just, that's the way it is. Some people pick up my Strats and they're just like, eh. And I pick up theirs and I'm like, eh. And yet we would never part with them. It's funny. I used to own several Les Pauls. I had a 58 historic, but it was the chambered one that a couple of like 3 different stores got involved with them, and I bought one. I think it was like Dave's Music, and I can't remember. They were called the Cloud 9 series, and I ended up selling it because I never played it. I would pull it out like once every 3 months and look at it and be like, oh, this is awesome. I'd play a few notes on it and be like, and then I would never play it. It's just, I don't care. And then I'm like, this is a very expensive toy to have under my bed that I would never use. And so I had a student that made me an offer on it, and I said, hello, that's gone. So, and now I'm down to 0 Gibson instruments, and eventually I'd love to get a 54, 55 custom in black with the staple P90 in the front. I think that, and probably I'd get another 58 if I could ever convince myself to playing one of these instruments. Now it's fun to play. The short scale for me gets a little bit, a little crazy. But we could talk about there are some Les Paul players that I'm always, of course, I'm a huge Ace Frehley fan. I'm a big John Sykes fan, who played the Les Paul Custom. It has a sound, and it's funny because I'm using a sound on this little amp here that's almost clean with my Strat, and here it's like completely like that Randy sound as soon as I put a little bit of slapback delay on it to emulate the, he would double to triple track his lead solos, so that's what I was doing in the first one. I used a slapback just so it would sound like, 2 guitars, but he would, like I said, he would double and triple track. But overall, I think this is a great instrument for what it is. It's which to me is an Epiphone. It plays like an Epiphone. It feels like, everything about this guitar. He even changed out the tuners. Let me just show you that. He put these locking tuners on it. You can still see the holes. There you go. Maybe. Can you see the holes? Yeah. Right underneath. It's actually underneath. So there you go. You can see the 6 holes there. So, but it really feels like an Epiphone Les Paul Custom, which are great guitars. They're great. Some of these Chinese factories today are really making some great instruments. And the Korean factories like World Manufacturing, who's making the PRS stuff, and they made some Schecter stuff back in the day, and I believe maybe some ESP, but World Manufacturing is fantastic. There's a lot of great Korean ones. Rira, I believe, was one. I know Schecter bought one of their one factory out there. I can't remember which one it was. The Gary Kramer Strat that I played, that was made in one of the nice Korean factories. Um, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff being made. I just don't see the reason. If you have an idea, I would recommend that you would, if you wanted like something like a Les Paul, but like you wanted to do a couple of things a little differently, whether it be the inlays you wanted different or you wanted, anything. I recommend that you could talk to any one of these manufacturers overseas and have them change the headstock and put your own name on it. It's so many people I think are so branded to the thing. Unless of course, see again, I go back to that Strat that I made, and I feel like I'm somewhat being a hypocrite. But at the same respect, the Strat that I made, again, was made all USA parts by Warmoth, and I used all Fender parts with DiMarzio pickups, Fender pickguard, but I used all Fender parts, and so when I put the logo on, it was because my dream guitar would have been a International Series Strat with a Dan Smith headstock. So because it doesn't exist, because one came out in 1980, one came out in 1982, I put them together and morphed it into one guitar. But yeah. And the other thing about me putting that on there is because Warmoth is making the Fender headstock. So regardless whether I put the logo on it or not, if you're looking at it, you're going to think it's a Fender. So I may as well make it look like the real deal. That's how I looked at it. But, the guitar cost me, finished, done, $1,400, which is what it would have cost you to buy a USA standard, except this guitar blows away any custom shop. It's just unbelievable. It really does. The 57 that I played, my yellow, I think is a better guitar. And but for $1,400, that's a great deal. The fretwork, and it's got the stainless frets. It has better fretwork. There's a lot of upgrades on it that you can't even get on a Strat without paying an arm and an ass. But yeah, and of course, I was mentioning Les Paul players. I didn't even mention Randy or Zakk Wild, another two great players that I love that play the Les Paul customs. But yeah. So, anyways, cool instrument. I think my buddy made a good buy on it. When he puts that back on, it'll look more. I probably the pickups. Seymour Duncan's. It's one of those things. When I hear them, I'm like, yeah, I could take or leave them. I'm not a big Seymour Duncan fan. In fact, who I am a huge fan of is Gibson pickups. I would put a Burstbucker 3 and a Burstbucker 2, and then this thing would scream. That would be what I would do for this guitar, because at least if you're going to make it look like a Gibson, make it sound like one. And to me, those have like that classic Les Paul sound, that old Jimmy Page sound. You could even go with a Burstbucker 2 and 1. I think the 2 and 3 is a little hotter and nicer. But yeah. But anyway, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about this. I really don't think that people should be going out hunting down these things and ordering them online. But again, if somebody were to offer you one, why not? As long as you know it's not the real deal. And there are things you can, clearly take a look at to see that it's not the real deal. I haven't even taken a look at it, but I can tell you right now, okay, just looking at this real quickly, I can see that this tailpiece has the screw on the top, and they're wide, they're thicker in the post, so I can tell you right now that that's how they make them overseas. That's not a USA. It's a much thinner post going in, and there's nothing on the top. It's you can't have a screwdriver head at them at the top. Other than that, I would say, you could look at the back and be like, it's just set up like a USA standard. I haven't really looked at the logo enough to give a shit. I could tell by the binding that sometimes in the binding looks like it's cut too perfect. It also looks a little milkier than the other. And then the paint, I can tell by the paint that that's not Gibson paint. Doesn't look like, it doesn't feel like nitro. It's it feels like a polyurethane to me. But overall, like I said, I think he did a good job. It's a cool instrument. If he keeps tweaking it, I think, like I said, I would do something with these pots to fix the height of them, because if you can see, they're sitting tall, and he's just going to adjust both screws. I'm not about to do that. And then I don't want to open it and get involved. And again, and then these pickups, I don't love. If he loves them, that's cool with him. But it ain't my thing. But otherwise, for a few $100, this is a very cool. I mean, this is probably, like, I would say, if somebody were to buy this thing, this is like an $800 guitar. It's what it feels like to me, plays like to me, maybe a little bit more. I mean, I would. The other thing you can tell that it's not a real Gibson is that the frets are over the binding instead of the binding over the frets that Gibson does. And then obviously the truss rod's open, so I can take a look at it. Yeah. And it's an Allen wrench going in, which Gibson will have the bolt that's there, and you got to use their special wrench to do it. So it's not an Allen wrench like this. So this also tells you that it's overseas. Again, he's not trying to pass this off as the real deal, and I do empathize with Gibson that these are being made and done, and it's just, it's too bad, but and it seems like it's like on wildfire on the on the web. But if this was like a kid's first guitar, and like I said, it fell in your lap because someone said, "Hey, listen, I have one of these fake Gibsons. Do you want to buy it? It's phony. You pay $200 or $300 for it, and this is like a kid who's 14 or 15, and this is his first guitar." This is a fantastic guitar. I mean, I haven't even really messed with it much, except I tuned it down a half step so I could do the solo to the Ozzy tune. But it plays nice. It's the frets feel good. Everything feels good about it, But there's a lot of inexpensive guitars out there that are great. You can, and I would recommend somebody, you can go on Craigslist and look up, and people are selling guitars cheaply. And if it's something's not set up properly, it needs take it into your local tech. That's good. But anyway, so this has been just a little look into the Chibson, which is what everyone seems to call these things, the Chinese counterfeit Gibson Les Paul Custom in white. And again, this is not, so Gibson makes it like an Alpine white, and you can also get like a 68 reissue, which I think is in the I don't know what they call that white, I'm forgetting, but it's like maybe it's aged white. It's but it's yellowed a little bit. This isn't either. This is definitely like your Epiphone, and it looks like, I would call this like pearl white. It has that 3D effect to it. But anyways, very good.